welcome to today's episode of the Balanced Approach podcast. I'm your host, Louis Padian. I hope that you're doing well and are enjoying the podcast and the topics we've covered so far. These podcasts are released every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, so be sure to subscribe wherever you are listening to be kept up to date. So today we are back with another episode on a hot topic which I'm seeing everywhere from lots of uninformed and misleading sources, and that is fasting. Now, fasting has been around for a long time. It's often one of these approaches that people harp on about, and you'll probably know who's fasting because they'll probably tell you about it and tell you it's the best thing since sliced bread. But actually today we're going to have a look at what the facts are, what the fiction is, whether it is a quick fix fad or something that is going to be a simple strategy for your success long term. So fasting has sort of a loose definition, and it's just prolonged period without food. So technically you fast overnight for when you sleep. If you sleep 8 hours, that is technically an 8-hour fast. If you skip breakfast and maybe don't eat until the mid-morning or lunchtime, that is a fast as well. But the most popularized approaches are the 16-8, where you fast for 16 hours and eat during an 8-hour window, or the 5-2, where you fast have a minimal food intake, maybe about 800 calories for 5 days a week, and then 2 days a week you eat normally. And this is sort of linked into that very earlier episodes, which I'd highly recommend because I feel like that was some of the really, really good underpinning principle episodes around methods versus principles. And we'll sort of delve into that a bit as we get into it. But we're going to do a bit of myth busting mainly today. So first one, and this is probably the most common reason that people fast, is that it's around weight loss. When I work with people, when I speak to people, when I see online, a lot of the information, the key benefit to any of it is helping with weight loss. And actually, when we have a look at fasting, it's a method, not a principle. And what do I mean by that? So when we talk about principles, these are sort of the underpinning facts or mechanisms that allow us to achieve certain things. So with regards to weight loss, the principle would be calories in versus calories out. People can debate it if they want, but the fact is that to lose weight, you need to take in less energy than you're burning, and then your body will tap into the energy stores that you have available, mainly your fat stores, and that will allow you to lose weight over a prolonged period of time while you're in that calorie deficit or taking in less calories than you burn. But methods wise, there's different ways that we can achieve that calorie deficit. We could count our calories so we have a better idea of what's going in versus what's going out. We could cut out fat or go a really low fat approach. We're not counting calories, but we're reducing the amount of fat in our diet. We could reduce the amount of carbohydrates in our diet and have a more high fat approach. We could do time restricted eating or intermittent fasting, which is what we're talking about today, where we go, right, I'm not going to count my calories, but I'm only going to allow myself to eat during these windows. And that is a method, not a principle. So when we're talking about weight loss, fasting can be a useful tool, a tool in the toolbox, something that you probably heard me talk about before. But we're talking about all these different tools, and that could be calorie counting, it could be low fat, it could be having higher protein intake, we could be fasting. All these different things are tools that we can use to achieve the job, and we need to get confident with certain tools. We need to understand when is best to use these tools and develop that confidence and competence with these tools as well, if that's going to help us achieve our goal. So fasting is a tool. Is it something that I recommend a lot to people? Probably not. Is it something that I ban or say is not worthwhile? No, that isn't the case either. If you're like me and you've lived a life where you've got other commitments and schedules, life doesn't always go to plan. And there might be times where you skip breakfast. Technically, you are fasting then. But is it something that you should be doing all the time? I'd probably suggest that it isn't something that most people should do all the time, unless it suits your lifestyle and your goals and your preference. If I'm sitting down with someone and they don't like breakfast, we might try a few different ways, potentially get some more nutrition in or a different approach to breakfast in the morning. But if it's something that just doesn't work for them, doesn't suit their schedule and doesn't excite them and they don't feel hungry in the morning, then we might not have breakfast until later in the day. We might wait until the mid-morning, till lunchtime. That's amazing. What are the downsides of that? Well, we might be missing out on getting more nutrition into our diet, some more diversity, some fruit and vegetables, some protein, some whole grains. It might lead to a more binge restrict approach to food where people are overeating later in the day because they get into a point where they're so hungry because they feel that they need to skip breakfast and have less food. But what I'm getting to here is that actually it's just a tool to achieve weight loss. Is it something that's going to be superior to other methods? Not really. Is it something that we might use to help manage our calorie intake, potentially. But there's lots of different ifs and maybes around that. People's dieting history, people's health, if they've got any lifestyle conditions where potentially they need to take medication, people who have a poor relationship with food, we might avoid this as well, or people who have demanding or train in the morning. There's lots of different reasons why we might avoid this, but it's a tool that some people might find useful every now and then. Or potentially, instead of feeling that you need to fast or eat, you might just have lower calories in the morning. Some people might just get by in the morning with a protein shake and some fruit, having less. Well, they might go from having a fairly big breakfast, maybe 500-600 calories, to a protein shake with some fruit, maybe 250 calories. And this might be an approach. I've used it with clients with polycystic ovarian syndrome who find it more difficult to lose weight due to metabolic adaptations where their calorie expenditure is a lot lower than expected for someone of their body weight and activity. So it's a lot more difficult for them to lose weight. But also there's things around their insulin sensitivity, using fasted training, high intensity working. There's lots of different things that we could do for someone in that situation. So fasting might be a useful tool for that person. But is it something that is what they claim to be online, that this is the only way to lose weight? It's definitely not. And I think it's definitely something for people to be aware of, that, you know what, if I miss a meal, it's not the end of the world. There might be some downsides to that, but like I said, not getting as many protein servings in, but it might be something that you need to do from time to time. So is it something superior for weight loss? Definitely not, but it could be a tool to use every now and then. Something else that often people talk around fasting is that everyone should do it. And I've probably spoken about this during the first part, actually, but it's not for everyone. There are some people who wake up and they are really hungry in the morning. And for me saying, right, you've got to fast and you're not allowed to eat until midday, because you've got a 16-8 approach that we're trying, where you're fasting between the hours of 8 p.m. at night and midday the next day. That might be really hard for someone. And actually us doing that might sort of undo or make things harder, because people get to that point at midday where they're absolutely famished, they're starving, and they will potentially overeat on the amount of calories that we might be aiming for, and then feel guilty, shameful, and has that sort of binge restrict mentality. And if, like I said, if someone's got a poor relationship with food, this is why potentially I would steer away from fasting and having this restriction there, because it might not be useful. People have got medical conditions where they need to take medication throughout the day, and they need to take that with food, then us having long periods where they might need to take medication where they're not eating might not be very helpful either. So there's lots of different reasons why someone might not use this approach. I don't think it's going to be a useful thing for a lot of people to use all of the time. It's something that probably most of us have done on the odd occasion. Is it something that I recommend someone should commit themselves to? Probably not. So remember that it might not be the most effective way for you to achieve what you want to achieve. Another example might be if you're training early in the mornings, we want to try and get some nutrition in there, some protein, some refueling to help with your work performance and recovery from that training session in the morning. So potentially us going, right, we're not going to eat in the morning, might not be the best thing for your training. And it's very much an individual basis. So again, is it effective for everyone? Is it safe for everyone? Probably not. Specific populations that people talk about, in particular diabetics, where they go, well, you need to fast for this and to help with their blood sugars. And we've talked about in previous episodes around people managing their blood sugars, that actually unless you're diabetic, it's not something to really worry about, first of all. But there are other ways for us to manage people who have pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes with lifestyle changes. So from the research, the biggest thing that's going to have an impact on someone who has developed type 2 diabetes due to lifestyle conditions is probably weight loss if their BMI is high, but also increasing their physical activity, increasing their fruit and veg intake, their fibre intake, reducing the amount of processed foods, and managing their energy intake overall, looking at their sleep, looking at their lifestyle in general, how they're managing their stress, their work-life balance, all these other things that I think come well before us going, well, we need to stop you having breakfast in the morning. And it's hard for me to sell this to you because often the stuff that works isn't sexy. Be really easy for me to go, right, I'm the fasting coach. I'm someone that teaches you, that gets you amazing results. I get you six-pack abs, reverse your type 2 diabetes or put it into remission. And you work with me and you'll get these amazing results. And all I do is go, right, you're not going to eat between these hours. Really easy job for me to do. And it's really simple for you to follow. I can see why people want to believe in it, because it's really easy to go, right, and really easy to slip into. that I've got this problem, I need a solution, and this is promising me quick results. I've only got to do this one thing and focus on this one thing. I'm not being told that I can't eat certain things. I've just got to enjoy each day and have skip breakfast. Sweet. I reckon I can do that. And because it promises quick results, really simple, and it's easy to follow, people try it. When actually the stuff that works more long term and we see better results from is the unsexy stuff. We're going, right, so let's have a look at improving your diet a little bit. Let's have a look at getting your sleep a little bit better. Let's have a look at managing your energy intake a little bit better and get your overall lifestyle looking a bit more healthy overall with healthier habits. And yes, it's going to take probably a bit longer than you'd like, and there might be ways that we can manipulate that to make it go a bit quicker, but usually the quicker processes that are more aggressive tend to be less sustainable long term. And if we're looking for sustainable long-term health and happiness, then we're probably not going to push things too hard and too aggressive too soon. So pushing back to the whole diabetes thing, it's not the magic bullet that people promise. There's lots of different things that if you're struggling to manage your blood sugar levels and you're worried about it and you want to improve your health and potentially help manage your diabetes a bit better or potentially put it into remission or reverse it, then we'd focus on lifestyle improvements and have a look at the lifestyle overall. Again, it's not the sexy sales, 60-minute, 6-second abs, whatever you want to call it. It's not the fast 800 that certain people online will talk about and sell you a book on. Actually, it's more difficult stuff, behavior change, looking at more sustainable things, but that's going to be more effective long term. Last but not least, and this is a phrase that's often thrown around with fasting, and it's one of the things that I know a little bit about, but I'm not an expert on, and that people say that fasting is superior due to autophagy. And they'll throw around a lot of these scientific terms, and I've got an episode coming up in the next few around sort of how to spot people who are trying to misinform you and probably aren't worth trusting. And a big part of it is that they'll use scientific language, make it sound like this is the best thing, when actually they don't really understand what they're saying. So autophagy, this is something that people often go, well, fasting increases autophagy, which is amazing and has all these amazing benefits. And it is linked with decreased inflammation. Inflammation, again, on the whole, we don't want chronic inflammation, but some level of inflammation is actually really positive within the body. Another benefit of autophagy is improved transmission of nerve signals in the brain. Yeah, fantastic, brilliant. Another one is keep the immune system functioning normally. Brilliant. They all sound like amazing things. And what autophagy is a process which a cell breaks down and destroys the old, damaged and abnormal proteins and other substances in it and sort of regenerates. And it's basically like a cleanup process within the cell. And what we find is that actually autophagy can be triggered by fasting. And whilst the research is there to suggest that it is, whether it has a meaningful impact is yet to be seen. But also, if we look at what else causes autophagy, well, restricting your calories increases autophagy, and better sleep, exercising, having just a better overall lifestyle changes, lots of different things that beyond fasting increased autophagy within the cells. So whilst autophagy might not be a contributing factor to some of the potential benefits associated with intermittent fasting, it's actually really important not to overstate and actually to avoid the oversimplification and look at what that actually means. So not actually looking at these buzzwords and what people are trying to sell us on and make it sound really sexy, but actually having a bit more of a critical mindset around this, that yes, that is true, but actually it's probably a half truth, because lots of other things that we can work on that actually have lots of the health benefits as well that probably aren't as sexy and really simple, and things that we know that we probably should be doing, being a bit more active, managing our energy, take a bit better, getting adequate sleep, also increase autophagy within cells as well. So hopefully this has given you a bit more of a balanced perspective on fasting. Hopefully it's shown you that it's not as sexy and it's not as magical as people lay it out to be. Yes, but also hopefully you can see that there's a role that it can play as well, that actually it's not this magical thing that you have to try really hard to do. Some of us do it accidentally from time to time anyway, just by skipping a meal or moving past a certain eating period without having food that we normally have. And that is intermittent fasting. So hopefully covering a few of these myths and clarifying some of the terminology around it, but also explaining that it's not actually this new principle that we need to think about. Actually, it's just a method, just like calorie counting, just like low fat, just like low carbohydrate approaches, that it all comes down to if you're looking for weight loss, all around energy balance, and if you've got any lifestyle conditions as well that might be improved by certain dietary changes, it's probably not the magic bullet for a lot of people. It has a place for some people, but hopefully that's been a lot clearer for you, and I look forward to catching you on the next episode. So there you have it. Thank you very much for listening to today's episode of the Balanced Approach podcast. If you have any questions, queries, or would like to reach out to me, please do. I am at Louis Padian Nutrition, which is at LOUISPADIAN Nutrition on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and all other social media platforms. If you're looking for support in achieving your goals and living a healthier, happier, and more balanced life in the process, click the link below and inquire about working with me. Remember to subscribe to the Balanced Approach podcast wherever you're listening for more insightful episodes, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.